There was one moment in South Park where Cartman was giving a speech, and I think it was Clyde, and somebody said something, against Cartman, and then Clyde said, "I am sick of you, Kyle, always defying and fighting against Cartman. Why don't you just let him speak and lead and do what he thinks is best?" And kind of went, a little fucking ape shit, a little fucking crazy out of nowhere, right? Just out of nowhere, just goes ape shit. And then Eric Cartman was like, "Thanks, Clyde." Anyways, and then just went on. So, yeah, I feel like that's my role for Jimmy Dore. Here we have Briahna Joy Gray defends Jimmy Dore, and then here we have Jimmy Dore's repulsive method of arguing. Sam Seder, Emma Vigilant, no Miki. Briahna Joy Gray defends Jimmy Dore's. Forced to vote on Katie Halper's show. I'm just going to kind of listen, try to make it somewhat entertaining, but go back and forth between the pro and the con. So let's start out with some positivity. Briahna Joy Gray. Since Benjamin since Benjamin Dixon doesn't like Briahna Joy Gray, that means now I know that I love Briahna Joy Gray. Didn't even know who she was, but if Benjamin Dixon don't like you, you must be a comrade of mine.
So can you tell people about the piece that you wrote, your latest piece, which has been getting so much buzz, as your wand?
Yeah, sure. I think I'll start with the piece that I think is really left out of the conversation.
The case for pushing a floor vote for Medicare for All.
Which is this. We have an enormous gulf between what American citizens want from their elected officials with respect to Medicare for All and what those elected officials are willing to offer us. As everyone here on this panel knows, even a Fox News poll said that 72% of Americans support Medicare for All. Almost, 50% approximately goes up and down a little of Republican support Medicare for All. We are in the middle of a global pandemic in which over 14 million people have just lost their health insurance. And we have to start to ask the question, why is it with all of this pressure, which should very naturally lead politicians to want to start running on Medicare for All, they're not doing so? And I think the obvious answer is that there is a multi-million, billion-dollar industry geared toward making sure that we stay on a private healthcare system. So, the media...
It's a good beginning. What do you have to say, Sam Seder?
I don't have a real response to it, and it undercuts my entire argument, so I'm going to respond comedically in such a way that I shout over you and throw you off. I mean, look, I can tell you this, one thing, Jay Moore used to do, just sort of reminds me of Jay Moore. You ever watch any segment with Jay Moore, particularly one like those interstitial shows, if there's a guy who's on there with him, I can guarantee you a significant portion of those times he's punched that person in the nuts or grabbed them in the nuts right before they go on air. That's, this is what you do to create some dominance.
That's it. When you're being interviewed, I had that thing with Katie last week, and the same thing happened. She just came at me, and I was like, what is the strategy here, when we wanted to get into details. But, Sam, I just got so repulsed from that, not from...
I am so confused, but that's Sam Seder. All right, Briahna Joy Gray. We should support Jimmy Dore. Why?
Media is obviously complicit in this. It could be that media figures held politicians accountable, that they drew the connection between how much money these individuals were taking from pharmaceutical and private insurance companies. Someone might have flagged the fact that Jim Clyburn takes more money from these industries than anybody else in Congress, and there might be a relationship between that and his support of Joe Biden and the rehabilitation of Joe Biden by the Democratic.
So welcome Briahna Gray. Briahna Gray is a person of color, just like Tim Black and Nico House. Actually, they're black, right? They're not people, they're black. But fantastic. The support, the movement continues to grow. We've got to get to a critical moment in society, maybe with media, with society, and then that critical moment pushes on the progressives, who pushes on the rest of them, and then we get, that critical that critical majority in the House of Representatives, and we get Medicare for all. So, who's on the wrong side? Sam Seder, Emma Vigilant, Ben Dixon, Jacobin, No Miki, Const, Francesca Fiorentina, Anna Kasparian, and David Sirotto. David Sirotto is basically giving all these Jimmy Dore haters all the ammunition that they need.
From the style, but from the point we are in society right now, with the crisis that we're facing, with the mass evictions that are on the line in a week and a half, with people who are completely out of money, and the left, he is picking fights with left leaders and saying that he's being strategic. This is the most unstrategic, dangerous thing you can do. Most unstrategic, dangerous thing you can do at this moment. And that was repulsive. That was an offensive in the entire show, frankly. Like, if you want to have Matt Stoller on, let him talk. Let him make his argument. Don't have a bunch of comedians on to come up with some better strategy.
That's No Miki. No Miki is sitting there saying, something about something. And so No Miki is on the wrong side. The people that's on the right side is Kim Iverson, the Vanguard, Zach, and I got to rewatch it, Gavin, I want to say, the Richard Medhurst, the lady from Russia Today, Jimmy and Steph, Ron Placone, Graham Melwood, Bree Joy, right, Briahna, Joy Gray, Tim Black, Aaron Mate, Crystal Ball, Nico House, Lee Camp, Kyle Kalinske, Rashid National, David Dole, and Jink Ugar. So, let's listen to the winning side and the correct side. Briahna Joy Gray, you're on.
Democratic Party to knock Bernie Sanders out of the race in the 11th inning, but we know that hasn't happened and is unlikely to happen. So, when Jimmy Dore surfaced this idea,
I have got an actual plan to get us a vote.
All right, they do the video of Jimmy Dore third and the clip in there. He's just going on basically explaining the full idea and the thoughts and the numbers, and it's pretty smart stuff. You have to read the headlines and read these articles, so even though Sam Seder, Emma Vigilant, says he doesn't read, I mean, he literally reads tweets and headlines straight to us.
Majority and Speaker of the House.
Here we have a Fox News exit poll. 72% of American people are in favor of universal health care. Change to a government-run health care plan. 72%. Fox News. Fox News, 72%.
Has never put Medicare for all on the floor without a chip.
So, yeah, basically half this video is just Jimmy Dore.
1380.
She mentioned the video, and so Jimmy Dore talks for about 5 minutes.
Really caught fire in a really organic way, and got Apple. So, when Jimmy Dore surfaced this idea, and it naturally caught fire in a really organic way, and galvanized people, made a lot of people on the left feel hopeful, and there was a fight still to be had that could advance our interests. I thought it was a really good idea, largely because in the absence of any other strategy to force the media to pay attention to that enormous chasm between where Americans are and where their politicians are, I think this is an opportunity that's too good to exploit. And we're not going to have it again. This pandemic is obviously horrible. I think today is the highest death toll that we've ever had. But if there could be any silver lining out of this, it should be that it has laid bare the vulnerabilities in our healthcare system. Our political leadership has admitted, it has acknowledged that healthcare should be free for COVID sufferers. And there's a real slippery slope between that and acknowledging that healthcare should be free at point of service for all. And you saw how vulnerable they are there when I simply quote tweeted Kamala Harris in the spring saying, free healthcare for COVID is a good start, but what if someone is dying of cancer or diabetes and the entire internet collapsed? They know there's a vulnerability there, and I think this is an amazing opportunity to exploit it, not just because of the pandemic, but also because Nancy Pelosi is someone who is one of the most unpopular politicians in America. Her popularity rating is worse than Trump, and the fact of Nancy Pelosi being the linchpin in all of this is guaranteed to draw a certain amount of media attention. It's only from the right who will relish the idea of her being bent over the proverbial barrel.
Fun.
Yeah. How did you kind of come to the position you came to?
Nando Villa.
Well, I am as aware as anyone of how Theodore is perceived. I've had my own little dust-ups with him in the past. But the thing is, I was listening to the counter-arguments, and none of them were substantive. I mean, it was all, I don't like Jimmy Dore, which is fine. There's plenty of reasons that people have to feel that way. But what I'm attuned to, what I used to pay attention to as, a comms person was, what the response was when you're selling certain kinds of things, when you're pitching certain kinds of things. And, I'm not saying I'm some expert. I'm not Bernie Sanders who's been going to rooms and talking to people for 40 years. But I did have experiences on my campaign of feeling what sunk and what landed in terms of the pitch. And when you see a natural groundswell of enthusiasm around an idea, I don't think that one's first instinct should be to poo-poo it or say, this isn't the idea I would have chosen, this isn't the best potential strategy. If there are other positive things to ask for, other useful things to ask for, I think we should make those demands as well. I think that David Sirota is right to have pointed to some of the more wonky things that, the Jimmy Dores and the me's of the world aren't going to come up with. And those things can be used in tandem with the floor vote. But I think that there are particular aspects of the floor vote that you can call them performative, you could call it theater, but I call it effective in galvanizing the kind of grassroots movement that would be necessary to really press this issue home. So yes, as I say in my article, you also would need, and I would hope that the progressive members of Congress, if they were to pursue this option, would reach out and try to galvanize support among labor and other activist groups, including Black Lives Matter, who we all know managed to galvanize millions of people in the street this summer, and who have as part of their platform universal health care.
There you go. That's the full pitch of Briahna Joy defends Jimmy Dore. Katie Halper Show got over 4,000 views, posted December 18th, 2020. I was patient with the pro side. I guess I'll be patient with the con side and then give you the thoughts about what I picked up along the way. This is the first time I'm seeing this.
The responsibility for what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what he doesn't know. All right, well, let's play the rest of that segment.
I definitely thought she was really cute in high school. I just never made a move. When I came across Remy, I was just like,
What does that have to do with anything, Sam?
What you're saying, so what the progressives are asking for are some insider procedural stuff. And I think the reason is that they have not decided that they are a coherent bloc that wants to do anything.
You're right about that.
That's basically what I'm saying. They're loyal soldier Democrats. Put AOC aside, because AOC was one of the few to actually sort of say, maybe CARES Act wasn't such a great idea. She did stop the...
After she voted for it.
Well, so she also stopped the HQ2. The point here is, I think the issue is that progressive Democrats are loyal, it's not clear to me that there's anything in the progressive world that is different than just your loyal soldier Democrats. And that's, I think, the core of it. It's like, you have to define what you want, and I don't see a coherent definition of what people want, where their values are. So
is it possible to make that? Is it possible to make that critique? Because I think that it's perfectly fair, and I agree with you and Jimmy in your frustration with the fact that they're not going far enough, and they're not.
That's Briahna Joy Gray. So even Sam Seder is referencing Briahna Joy Gray, Katie Halper, Jimmy Dore. I don't know what Matt Stoller said. If Matt Stoller's on board, then this is disingenuous. They're acting like, look at how big of a bully Jimmy Dore. They're all friends. They all did this thing together. Then they did a thing later on. So.
Let Bree.
But I also think it is overly simplistic to pretend that they are identical that there was no difference between them and mainstream Democrats. And I think it would be an easier conversation for a lot of people to absorb and to agree with you if you listen a little bit more.
Here's what's fascinating. Bree is arguing that there are Democrats who are to the left of mainstream Democrats who are trying to push it. Like, she's arguing that there's a substantive difference between an AOC and, let's say, like a Richie Neal. And Jimmy doesn't even get. He says he's so bad at listening. He doesn't even get that she's arguing against his proposition that they're all the same.
Maybe on that particular point, but Sam Seder doesn't get that Briahna Joy is on Jimmy Dore's side.
He's busy eating. I am
He's having a sandwich.
I'm super hungry now, but
Stoller's point, I think, is true, and I want to get your take on this, Nomi. I think Stoller's point is true insofar as I don't think the progressive, and he goes on to talk about this, like, we've seen some changes in the Progressive Caucus just in the past week, where Jay Apollo is now, they don't have dual leadership. Ilhan Omar is now sort of, I guess, the whip, and Katie Porter has been brought in number 2 in the progressive, and they put out a statement. It's a very nebulous statement. We're making it more member-oriented, right? Which I take to mean, and we know the criticism, AOC came on this program and said, the Progressive Caucus doesn't necessarily have the requirements that we would like to say. You don't just get this title by paying $4,000 dues. You've got to actually have, there has to be an ideological, hurdle for you to cross, essentially, to get the label. And my sense is they're starting to work on that. And I think that is a necessary step before you get to we want X, Y, and Z, both from a structural procedure standpoint and then from a programmatic standpoint, and that's what we're going for. And this is our 1, 2, 3, 5-year plan to achieve these goals. And I think he's right. We don't have that articulation, and partly because, Nomi, like what you say, that there isn't a movement leader or movement leaders or even institutions that are doing that. Like we're seeing a little bit with some of the electoral institutions, maybe.
This is the key.
So there you have it. Sam Seder loves to listen to himself. He is just full of hot air. He's on the wrong side of history, and Briahna Joy Gray is on the right side of history. Sam Seder even defended Briahna Joy Gray, saying that Jimmy Dore doesn't even know. Doesn't even know what's going on. So I like that Briahna Joy Gray called that her spats with Jimmy Dore was dust-ups. Me and Jimmy Dore's had a couple of dust-ups. She's not going to, hold it against him. A good idea is a good idea. She said she just listened to the arguments, and the pro side had a lot of good arguments, and the con side didn't. And she said she remembered when somebody had asked about getting, all the COVID-19 dead people or COVID-19, people some health care. Then what if people die of cancer or diabetes? That's fantastic, question. So the solution for Medicare, the solution for COVID-19, the diagnosis is you got COVID-19. The prescription for America is Medicare for all. It fits. The prescription fits the diagnosis, and Pelosi is less popular than Trump, so Nancy Pelosi is unpopular. So Briahna Joy Gray just basically wrote a nice article, got a lot of publicity, is talking about it, and says that the pro arguments for force the vote is better than the con arguments, and she's absolutely right. Peace.